Drop it on the random.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about history and nostalgia in hip hop, but more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. With me, as always, the homie Tony of IntoTheDome.com. What's good, bro?
Hey, look, man. So I'm drinking some CBD Living apple ginger. You know what I'm saying? So y'all cats know
God damn.
doing pretty good right now, fellas.
I see. Like, in other words, he probably fucked up, y'all. CBDs. And with us on this special episode of That Time in Hip Hop, the homie Nick, you know what I'm saying, a mad music fan, not just hip hop under the underground like you fucking trolls. Sorry, I'm gonna curse a lot today. Sorry, whatever. But a dude, Nick, what's good, brother?
Thank you for having me, big homies. You know what I'm saying? I miss y'all guys, man. I ain't did nothing with y'all in a minute.
No doubt.
Thanks for having me for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, man. No doubt. And we glad to have you. And also we're glad to have you, the viewer, the listener. If you're just stumbling across this podcast and you like the idea of, even what you're hearing, even what you think this show is about before you watch it, please know that we are 65 episodes deep. This will be 66 on YouTube and on just favorite streaming service. All you got to do is search for Hip Hop Now Podcast, hit subscribe, and in that same feed of my weekly podcast, Hip Hop Now Podcast, you'll also find the various episodes of That Time in Hip Hop. That's for the audio heads. And if you're a video person, you can go over to YouTube and you can search for That Time in Hip Hop, which is a part of the channel B-Roll Network. We done talked about everything you could think of, and we still ain't touch upon a lot of stuff. And we got a dope show for y'all today. So let's get right into the business. We're going to do something that we usually do here. We like to commemorate and talk about what happened this month in hip hop. And this month in hip hop, on April 27th, 1999, Mobb Deep released their fourth album, Murder Music. We're going to go to our guest first. Nick, Murder Music drop, 1999. Quiet Storm, the original, was in the streets. Then the remix dropped. What were your thoughts when you heard the singles and then eventually got the album?
It was well, just hearing the single, I was like, get prepared for another classic, third one in a row. We had the infamous, we had Hell on Earth, and just from hearing that single, it was like, okay, they're about to give us a third one. That was what I thought.
Yeah.
And then when the album came, I think they delivered, in my opinion.
And what would you say did that as far as for you to call it a classic? Like, like certain songs or what's just standout record? Basically.
Standout record for me would be Where Your Heart At, The Realest with Kool G Rap, the joint with Cormega. Yeah. I think they could have trimmed a couple of songs off, but for the most part, it was dope.
True that. I'm glad you said that. I think that Cormega verse was the first time I was like, yo, Cormega kind of killed that shit. That was like the first time I ever said that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, Cormega. Tone, Murder Music, 1999, it dropped. What was your thoughts on that album?
Well, a few months before that, I heard Quiet Storm, but I heard the version of just P. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, P is killing this joint. Like, it just kind of made me anticipate the album because, like Nick said, we don't excuse juvenile. They were young. 5 mics, Hell on Earth. Who would have thought they could have followed this Hell on Earth? That shit was potent. So I'm like, okay, and I was expecting to hear a cussing. And I'm gonna tell you, they delivered, man. Like, again, it was 19 songs with Lil' Kim, but if it got slimmed down to probably 15 songs, it would have been flawless. But nevertheless, a song that I might think is just okay or whatever, somebody else might say that's their favorite song on the album. So I can't discredit that. At the end of the day, they were 3 for 3 back to back with just great projects, man. Quiet Storm, you know, it started off kind of like a mixtape song. Who would have thought it would have ended up being a club banger? You know what I'm saying?
I like the mixtape version better.
Right, and then the Lil Kim version turns to a club banger. You got the joint It's Mine with Nas. Like you said, that there, What's Your Poison with Omega was crazy. The Realest Coogee Rap gave you another epic verse that he always does. It's like, you know, hey, doing something with Coogee Rap, you might get murdered. You know what I'm saying? So take, you know, go at your own risk, man. You know what I'm saying? But Thug Music was dope. Streets Raised Me with Big Noid. What's your where your heart at? Well, that's from Deep. That's from what's the joint with Omar Epps and L Cool J?
Deep Cover. Yeah.
Nah,
not Deep Cover.
No, not Deep Cover. It was
In Too Deep.
Too Deep.
That's right. In Too Deep. Yeah.
Which also was a dope soundtrack. But anyway, I remember they was playing Where Your Heart At, doing a little movie. But yeah, man, the dope Mob project. I think Alchemy did a couple of beats on Hill with Havoc. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I mean, it is what it is, man. Another dope joint from Mobb Deep.
And they reached down south and did a track with 8 Ball. I gotta mention that. So
shout out, where you from?
To them. Yeah.
Where you from? 8 Ball.
Yep.
Yeah.
8 Ball killed it too.
He did. Yeah, I agree with both of y'all, man. I feel like it was like I like to call it a classic. I do agree with Tone though. It could have used some trimming to like just be airtight. But at the end of the day, I still found like the majority of it, you know, just really dope, like just in pocket. And like y'all said, man, when I heard the Prodigy solo version of Quiet Storm, I was like, yo, this dude is just like fuck a prime. Like he got the glow right now. Like he just, and I think it's just because
and you know what too, babe?
What's that?
Oh, my fault, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I was thinking about Prodigy also is the king of starting songs off. And just think about the way he started off Quiet Storm. It's probably one of the we can debate. It's one of the top 5 ways of starting a song off. I put my lifetime in between the paper's lines. I'm the Quiet Storm nigga that fight rhymes. I mean, like, if you really think about it, not too many people started a song off better than that.
Yeah, that's right up there with Inspector Deck on Triumph and joints like that, where you just like, you didn't even hear the whole verse. You already know it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and plus I remember in his book, him just saying even around that time, he was like a lot of their friends were dying, and like that's why you hear him talking in the beginning, like it was a really deep moment for him with that song and shit. Like he was angry, but you know he wasn't wilding out. So I guess that's where you get the whole Quiet Storm. But like I said, man, what they put Lil Kim on the remix and shit, my God, like I was listening to that the other day and I was like it was almost like the first time I heard it where I was like, damn, Kim really killed this shit. Like, God damn.
Yeah. She killed it.
The UNO, etc. Like, she was killing that shit. Like, damn. I also listened
to. And you know what, too? It was almost like a victory lap for Lil Kim as well to be able to come through like that after Biggie is dead. You know, it's always there. She writes some, Big writes some. Really pop off after Big. And she took Quiet Storm from a great mixtape joint with P to a legendary club banger. And Lil Kim is and look, when she do her part, I don't care what club you at in America, all the chicks in the rhyme do her part.
Yeah.
Legendary, man, for Lil Kim, bro.
Yeah, and the dudes too. And then the video just was like the cherry on top. Because I think the visual I think of most of the time is like, damn, Lil Kim was like in the club standing on tables and shit. Spitting this joint.
Yeah,
it just made the section dope. But for you watching or you listening, Mobb Deep's fourth album. I know you might be saying four. Hold up, 1, 2, 3, it's three. No, nigga, we count Juvenile Hell.
Juvenile Hell counts.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's back here somewhere. I got every
Yeah.
fucking thing back here. I didn't even
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah.
But if you've heard that album, you know, what's your thoughts? Leave it in the comment section below. We'd love to know what you thought about that album when it was released. What you thought about the Quiet Storm song, the solo version, you know what I'm saying, Prodigy at that time, all of it. Leave it in the comment section below. But now we're going to get into the meat of the episode, the main reason why you came here. You saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, you know what I'm saying? You either said, that's my year, or you said, well, who the fuck dropped during that year? Because maybe you're too young, whatever. We're about to school you on all of that. So, Tone, do the honors. Tell the people what we're here to talk about.
Well, look, fellas, you know, the Niners can be argued as the decade of hip hop. You can debate that with the 80s, you can debate it with whatever. But a lot of people think that the most music consistently came out in the 90s. And they always talk about 1994 with Illmatic, about 95 with Cuban Links, talk about 96, which was an amazing summer, and 96 is one of the greatest years in hip-hop history, which I almost equate that to 1988. You can also talk about 1998. But people still 1991. Like 1991 is probably one of the better years of the 90s with classic albums. It was a year of amazing singles that broke some artists and took them to superstar status. And we're going to get into some of those singles and talk about those albums as well, man. But I'm going to tell you, 1991 was such a slept-on year. And I will say this real quick. The Low End Theory came out in 1991. And just real quick, if you know me, you know Tribe Called Quest, my favorite group. And the Low End Theory, to me, is a top 10 hip-hop album. And it came out, look at that. There you go. Nick has it right in front of him. Vegas reaching back for it. I'm in my office, so I don't have it, but it's downstairs in the basement. You can put, look, see y'all showing out, man. Both of y'all showing out. You know what I'm saying? So as you guys can see, the listeners, this album is held in high regard. But 1991 overall has several other amazing classics, man. But before we get into it, I want to say it's an amazing year. Vague, what you think about 1991 before we get into details with yourself and Nick?
Me and Nick was kind of talking about this before we started, and what I didn't realize once I went back and just Googled 1991 just to see what would pop up as far as hip hop albums, and I realized I was like, wow, I have a lot of these albums on cassette that are literally back here. Half the shit we're gonna name, I have sitting right here. And I was trying to figure out like what the fuck was up with 1991. But for me, 1991 was the first time I started getting allowance where I could go and buy my own music. Prior to that, like my brother and other people I know would, give me a dub of it. So I would have copies of everything I listened to. So this is the first time I could, buy my own music. So a lot of this music, when I hear it from different artists, West Coast, East Coast, it don't even matter. Like it speaks to me a little bit differently because it's nothing like buying your own first tape or CD or vinyl. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what the album is, you probably listened to it to death, you cherished it, and all that good stuff. And real quick, my favorite album came out in 1991. Kind of like
we're gonna go there too. I know which one it is too.
Yeah, it's like my Bible. So
I know which one it is.
Nick, 1991. Your thoughts on that year in general?
Yeah, 90. Because I'm probably the youngest one here. So born in '79. So it was late '91 that changed my life when I heard a certain album in my uncle's car. That's when I started collecting from this particular album. So that's why 91 is special to me as far as hip hop goes, because that's the year when I started, collecting my own collection.
So let me give you guys just a few highlights and then we'll go in detail. 1991, man, was real ill because for one, A Tribe Called Quest, like we said a few minutes ago, dropped the Low End Theory. We didn't know what was gonna happen after People Instinctive Travels. Sometimes somebody have a nice little debut and they disappear. You know what I'm saying? You had Bonita, and things, and left my wallet El Segundo. Can I kick it? Like, okay, is that going to be the end? No. They come back with Check the Rhyme, which is arguably a top 10, top 15 rap song ever, maybe top 10. You know what I'm saying? If someone said it was top 5, I wouldn't debate them. Then you come out with Jazz. Then you come out with Scenario, and there's a guy on the named Busta Rhymes who really becomes a star on that track. And of course, 1991, Leaders of New School dropped their debut album as well. So this is a big year for the Native Tongues. You have De La Soul is Dead, gets 5 mics in the Source. You know what I'm saying? Ring, Ring, Ring is still kind of them rebelling against hip hop and the Source and everything like that. And ironically, they got 5 mics. You have Niggas for Life come out, and it's the first album without Ice Cube. And then you have a track on there called Real Niggas, where MC Ren and they try to bury Ice Cube. You know what I'm saying? And of course, that same year, Ice Cube comes back. If he's not Ice Cube, he's done at the Real Niggas. I looked at that track again today. MC Ren went crazy on that track. You know what I'm saying? And Dre and Easy and everyone. But, of course, Ice Cube comes back with the Death Certificate and No Vaseline, which you can consider top 1, top 2. Look at that. Greatest diss song in hip-hop history. You know what I'm saying? So those are some of the things. Main Source comes out with Breaking Atoms, and this young kid from Queensbridge named Nasty Nas comes out, and now you can consider him one of the top 5 MCs ever because Breaking Atoms broke him with Live at the Barbecue. So those are just a few things that we're going to get deeper into it, man. But just some of the stuff I mentioned so far, what you guys think, man? What you think, Nick?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, man. That nothing but classics. Like you said, a lot of classics. And another album. This was at the very top of 91.
So, real quick, Nick, and I made a note about this. I love No More Mr. Nice Guy. I love Manifest. But when Gang Starr dropped Step Into the Arena, they became at that time my second favorite rap group behind Tribe. They had already taken over what I felt about Run DMC, you know what I'm saying, EPMD, because it was Tribe. It was all about Tribe when I heard Check the Rhyme. But when I heard Step Into the Arena, I became a Gang Starr fan for life. They went a whole nother notch from No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yep.
Wow.
I agree.
Great album.
I agree.
Yeah, what's crazy about that is like I like Words That I Manifest, but I wasn't big on Gang Starr back then. But when I heard Just to Get a Rap, I was like, wait a minute, this can't be the same cats.
Same group,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Like they just switched up ridiculously and Can't Handle the Whole Weight. Like when I heard that shit, I was like, oh, the scratching on there that Premier was doing, I was like, yo, this is hip hop. I agree, man. I think like with 91, not only do you have a bunch of classic albums, but like you kind of touched on, Tone, you have a bunch of debuts of future superstars, legends, all of that in the game. And even you have like looking at people's solo careers, right? Ghetto Boys dropped in 1991 a new album which had Mind Playing Tricks on Me, but Scarface also dropped a solo album, Mr. Scarface is Back.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Which is probably my favorite Scarface album because it is the most grimiest, great. Like I think I said this on Kill Podcast, man. Motherfucking gunfight on the cover. How did you not buy that when you see?
And you know what? To me, 1991 when Ghetto Boys dropped, We Can't Be Stopped with Mind Playing a Trick. They went from dope Midwest Southern rappers to national stardom with Mind Playing Tricks on them. You know, I'm in North Carolina. That popped off. And I know it popped off in New York, Atlanta, and everywhere else. So I think that's the year that Ghetto Boys became stars, and then Scarface breaks away and drops a dope debut. So, you know, his legend started that year to me. You know what I'm saying? The legend of Scarface started in 1991. Another thing, too, man, was Not About Nature drops an album. Their self-titled album. It's not their debut, but it's the album that made them a star because you got OPP, Everything's Gonna Be All Right. You got Uptown Anthem from the Juice soundtrack that comes out that year. The Juice soundtrack was dope. You know what I'm saying? That's 1991. So Not About Nature became stars that year too, man. And I've been going back showing them a lot of love lately, man. So what do y'all think about when Not About Nature came with that heat.
Oh, for sure. Because there was a time, and I know Tupac is one of my favorite rappers. Before I even say this, because I already know what's gonna happen. There was a time when Treach was head and shoulders better than Pac. This is just facts. Just facts. Like 91 to about 93, 94, Treach was a problem.
Yeah. When you think about Treach too, it's like his flow, right? Like who was rapping like Treach back then? Like no one.
Well, you know, Treach is still, for whatever reason, because I think the Not About Nature singles make you overlook the greatness and technical skills of Treach. I mean, you know, Eminem talked about this on one of those DVDs. I think
Yoke the Joker.
Yeah, Yoke the Joker. He knew every word to it. You know what I'm saying? But you know, Treach is technically an amazing rapper, and from 91 to about 93, you could argue Treach is probably in the top 5 MCs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he absolutely was better
than successful ghostwriter at that.
Exactly. He basically solo because he was writing Vinny rhymes. So
yeah,
Vinny was pretty much the hype man, and you know, and things of that nature. And also, to your point about your favorite rapper, we also 1991 was the year that Tupac Now dropped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you got Brenda's Got a Baby, When My Home Is Called, Trap, and I'm like that. And at the same time that year, Digital Underground dropped the same song before he dropped his solo, and you're like, okay, that's the dude. You know, clown around, want to hang around with Underground. I'm like, okay, dude got a little flavor, but who knew that he was gonna come out with Trap? You know what I'm saying? Like, then it's like, okay, this dude is something different.
Yeah, you know what's funny about this year as it relates to this show? When you look at the albums that dropped during that year, and the artists, including Master P, who also dropped something that year.
Yeah, his debut.
Yeah, exactly, another debut. We've talked about if we didn't give one of these artists a solo episode, we literally talked about these albums in several episodes, which is crazy when you think about it. And like Tone said, when you think about 1991, it never really gets mentioned in a lot of the great years. The albums get mentioned all the time, but no one puts that shit together to be like, wait a minute, these all came out in 91, which is crazy.
A lot of legends were created in 1991. Like I said, I believe Q-Tip became a legend. KMD dropped Mr. Hood, and of course we know the MF Doom became a legend. You know what I'm saying? DJ Quick dropped Quick Is the Name. You know what I'm saying? Cypress Hill dropped they.
Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill dropped they joint, man. Crazy. Black Sheep dropped,
right?
Yeah, debut albums. Cypress Hill, Black Sheep, Naughty by Nature.
Ed O.G. and the Bulldog.
Ed O.G.
Dale the Funky Humble Safe.
Yep, Dale. Yep.
So these debuts, man, was killer, man. And man, like I said earlier, Leaders of New School dropped. And of course, the PTA was a nice single, but Busta Rhymes became a star that year because you knew that at some point that he was gonna go solo.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't want to. Because sometimes the fans just choose you. Ain't nothing you can do about it.
Dr. Dre talked about that when he heard Dr. Dre on interviews for years said when he heard Scenario, he said, well, whoever that dude is right there, you know what I'm saying? That the Busta Rhymes guy, he's a star.
Yeah.
And when talking about that song, we have to talk about the Arsenio performance. Yeah, that's what really stole it.
Legendary.
Yeah, with Fife holding the mic, him turning the hat inside out, the reversible Dr. Seuss hat.
Oh, right.
Man, that was a great time.
Yeah, that was a star-making moment.
Also, man, I like to also say, you know, MC Lyte is my favorite female MC, and she dropped the album Act Like You Know, man. And, you know, Poor Georgie is still one of my favorite hip-hop songs, hip-hop stories. She also had When in Love, and she also had Eyes of the Soul, man. And that's also one of my favorite MC Lyte songs and one of my favorite rap songs as well. So she dropped another great project. She always stayed consistent, man, with the dope songs and albums, and stayed right on par with the male MCs, man.
Yeah, that's true. I was listening to that earlier today, which is dope. Didn't Yo-Yo drop her debut album?
Yes, sir.
She did.
wait for the
Yeah.
mother logo. Go find it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And we just discussed like all of that for Women's History Month. We did a whole show saluting the ladies throughout the years. And so Yo-Yo, obviously, and then MC Lyte, obviously, got their flowers. One thing I want to say about this year, and there's even more albums that we didn't even name yet. Like, what do you think, or Nick, I'll come to you first. What do you think was going on in 91, right? Because it's easy for us to look back in 96 and just say, yo, motherfucking Source Awards happened, and then we got all these albums and Tupac Wildin' and all that stuff. But when you look at 91, it's like you're getting all these classic albums dropping on the West Coast, on the East Coast. You got, you know what I'm saying? You got the South with
kind of trying to make a way in.
Yeah, trying to make a way in and doing it in different ways. And one thing that Tone said, even when you think about like somebody like Treach and Naughty by Nature and why they don't get their flowers, you know, I always think about their hits because OPP was so large, I think it overshadowed the other dope shit. And same thing with, you know, the other records. So what do you think it was about 1991 in particular that maybe it was hip hop culture, maybe it was just culture in general influencing, but to get us all this talent in 1 year, you know what I'm saying?
I think because we got to remember back then it was about being original. So you didn't want to sound, even if you was influenced by somebody, you didn't want to come out sounding just like them. So like, I remember it might have been Q-Tip and Dre was like, this album influenced me to make the Low End Theory. Then Dre hears that, then he comes back and make the Chronic. They don't sound alike, but that the classicness of the album makes you want to make something better. Like, I got to top that. God damn, you heard this album? I got to make something better than that. And I think that's just what it was in 91. You hear Death Certificate by Cube, you're like, God damn, my shit got to sound like that. You hear Low End Theory, same thing. I got to top that. That's what everybody like. My shit got to sound better than that. So I think that's still like the early stages of the album format in hip hop too, because the 80s were more single based, even though the albums was coming out. The 90s was really when the album format took over for rap.
Yep.
So I think that's what it was, man. When you hear like a Gang Starr step in the arena, you hear Main Source breaking Adam, you like, if my shit ain't sounding like that, if it ain't as good as that, then I'm not gonna make it. I just think that's what it was. Like the bar was so high, and you had to be original because cats would step to you. You know, they would be like, dude, can't be sounding, you know, like Ghostface. He was like, I don't want nobody sounding like nobody in my clique. Yeah. They was like stepping the cats.
Yeah, what Tone? So, like, because I think Nick touched on a great point that I didn't even think about with the albums, the sequencing, right? Like,
very important.
They were you listen to any one of these albums, it's like a journey. You know what I'm saying? From where the records are placed, where you start to where you finish. Well, what do you think it was about 1991 in general? Do you feel like, Nick, like it was like a competitive thing? So it was like steel sharpen steel type situation?
Yeah, on one end I do. I mean, yeah, that's definitely a fact. And on the other end, I just think it's just like sports and Hollywood movies is evolution. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the artists became more in tune with putting full projects together. At one point in the 80s, a lot of albums had 10 songs. You know what I'm saying? Now we're talking about these albums having 14 to 16 songs. Gang Starr, you know, having 17, 18 songs on the albums. You know, I think Low End Theory had like 14 songs on it. So I think people expanded on what they were doing in the 80s and say, you know what, I want to add some more songs to it and give you more of an experience. You know what I'm saying? It was also right before the West Coast was getting ready to pop off. You know what I'm saying? I think the West Coast was preparing for the Chronic because you got the Death Certificate, you got DJ Quick, you got Niggas for Life, which is some of Dre's best production. You know what I'm saying? You got other artists from the West Coast, Dale and everyone dropping. And I just think it was right there on the cusp of seeing what the West Coast really can be outside of just NWA. And they, you know, Ice Cube, I mean, not Ice Cube he dropped. Ice-T dropped Original Gangster this year as well. I mean, here we go. You know what I'm saying? So he had the New Jack Hustler on that was on New Jack City. You know what I'm saying? So the West Coast was about to break, man. So I think that the East Coast had to step up even more because that early surge of NWA was still scaring people. You know what I'm saying? When Niggas for Life came out, people didn't know how it was going to be. But even without Ice Cube, they dropped a street banger, a street classic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you had that, you know, and then you had Ice Cube just, you're going to do America's Most Wanted in 90 and then do Death Certificate in 91. It's like, oh my goodness, is Ice Cube trying to take over hip hop? You know, because he on the Source magazine several times at that time, man. So I just think 1991 was just a peak of what was coming the following year with the Chronic introducing Snoop and introducing the West Coast trying to take over hip hop.
And yeah, the West Coast was heavy because when you think about it, MC Breed had a joint that was bumping. You had Dub C had an album.
And Compton's Most Wanted.
Compton Most Wanted had an album. You know what I'm saying? Straight Checking Them. You know that shit is straight old school. Straight Checking.
Yeah, you know that was
you don't want that shit. You don't
the
want
Hood
them
Took
problems.
Me Under. The Hood Took Me Under that was on Boys in the Hood.
Yeah. Now, one thing I noticed.
One thing before we move on. 91 was also the last year where you still have fun and smile on your album cover because we be climbing my man.
Yeah, that was it.
You know what I mean? Leaders of the New School. What's the other group? UMCs, right?
UMCs,
That's
yeah.
So that was like the last year you could have fun before.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of times when people talk about like the Chronic, that whole once the Chronic took over, whatever, like I was tired of the smiling niggas. I was tired of the East Coast stomp. I was tired of the fade with the I was kind of like I still love Tribe, but it was like certain people could still break through. But I was ready for the West Coast gangster rap, the reality rap, basically. One thing that in our last episode, or the last year we did, which was 1993, that I'm seeing here when I look at this list is you have these debuts from different artists, and you got debut verses, like we said with Nas on Main Source's album Live at the Barbecue. But then you got this crossroads of old school MCs that are still dropping, like Kumo D, who put an album out called Funky Funky Wisdom. I do not remember that album at all. I look at the track list and I don't remember any of that.
That definitely was the end. Kumo D was pretty much, that was it for him. You know what I'm saying? He, he's still from, in Mo D's defense, he's still part of the first Legend of Kings with Cass and Melly Mel. So he's the one of the guys that influenced Rakim and KRS and Kane and everyone in that second wave of Three Kings, man. So, it was just him still loving music, still trying to put stuff out. So it didn't really pop out. But, Slick Rick he dropped, his joint and the Ruler's back. And I did like that joint. I shouldn't have done it. And mistakes of a man in love with other. Yeah, absolutely. So with other men. And Slick, he had this legal problem. So, I'm thinking his second and third albums would have really been dope if he would have never got locked up and they were just throwing shit together for Slick Rick. Because every night on both albums, he had jewels on there.
That second album or both albums, he
Behind
was
Bars and the root, and but back, and just off subject, you saw when he got himself back together and free from prison, that Art of Storytelling that came out late in the 90s, that was a dope ass album.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Another old school artist that actually saw success in a different light was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
Oh my goodness, Summertime.
You know what I'm saying? Off the album Home Base.
Yes, sir. I don't remember nothing else off that album, but I know that song.
Me neither.
Hey, you don't need to.
That song, bro.
That's the only one that matters.
Exactly. All summer.
You know what? Speaking of old school, also that year, KRS-One and BDP dropped that live album too. Yeah. And that joint was crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice and Smooth drop. I forgot about it. Nice and Smooth drop.
Yeah, because they had that's the album that had You Can't Have Your Cake and Eat It Too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was on there. Yeah.
And Hip Hop Junkies.
Hip hop.
Heavy D dropped Peaceful Journey
Yep.
Yeah.
with
True,
Don't
that
Curse
one.
on it.
Yep. One of the best posse cuts.
I do have that sitting up here somewhere. A couple
Oh,
of
but
them
let me
joints
also say this. No
Yes,
doubt, there
sir.
you go. Let me say this though. 1991 was also the year that Chubb Rock became a star with The One. See this
Yeah.
wasn't his first album, but this is a
Nah,
Chubb
yeah.
Rock album that had just the two of us and
Treat 'Em Right.
Treat 'Em Right, and those
Yeah.
are still bangers to this day.
Yeah. And that was
Chubb
one of
Rock
my
came off.
recommendations a couple of shows ago. Because I think I went back and listened to it. I was like, God damn, this fucking album is fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
but Chubb Rock, he just doesn't get mentioned enough.
Yeah,
One
really
thing
doesn't.
I want to talk about, because we did mention, right, a bunch of old school artists that not old school, a bunch of West Coast artists that dropped some bangers, some classic material, whether it was a sophomore album, debut, or whatever. But Tone, me and you did a whole entire show on this. Tim Dog dropped Fuck Compton and his album Penicillin on Wax
On Wax.
this same year, which is crazy.
Yeah. He caused a lot of problems. That's funny. You're right.
Man,
But you know what,
I
too,
think I got
man?
that shit too up here.
Yeah, you probably do. But you know what? This also was a year, and I said earlier, if you don't mind me, a little quick segue about some dope singles as well. Like PE Shut 'Em Down came out this year.
Yeah.
And, this also when they used that song, the PE Shut 'Em Down for Def Comedy Jam. We always remember that's how Def Comedy Jam came on when Mark Lawrence was hosting. You know what I'm saying? So you got that. You got Not About Nature, Everything's Gonna Be All Right. Ice Cube, True to the Game. You know what I'm saying? Rakim, Know the Ledge. I'm just looking at some of these singles, man. Nice and Smooth, sometimes around slow. Organized Confusion dropped Fuzz.
Organized Confusion.
Also dropped their debut album this year as well.
Yeah.
Black Sheep, The Choice Is Yours.
Mm-hmm.
MC Breed, No Future in Your Frontin'. I mean, 91, man. It's very slept on, fellas.
Yep.
Extremely slept on. And there's a lot of slept on artists when you look at it, right? Like Poor Righteous Teachers dropped their second album, Pure Poverty, which was a dope album. Queen Latifah even had an album that year.
Oh, that's right. Latifah Had It Up to Here was on that joint.
Nature of a Sister, yep.
Yeah.
That also dropped this year. It's
man.
It's
Biz Markie, I Need a Haircut.
Which also was derailed because of the sampling issue.
Yeah, he got killed.
Yeah.
He got killed.
The Genius also dropped in 1991.
Cold Chillin', yeah.
Debut album.
Hey, you know who else dropped too? And I know this is.
Well, let me
say this hip hop.
Let me say this before the cats go up in the comments. The Genius dropped his debut album, Not Liquid Swords.
That's right.
Words from the Genius.
That's right.
And his name wasn't the Jizza; it was the fucking Genius.
Yeah.
and I think he's writing on a book that's glowing. So. But what was gonna say?
So y'all stop acting like that album didn't come out.
Yeah, right.
What a lot of his fans try to do.
Hey, people always trying to, it was there. It happened. It actually happened. The Genius actually happened.
One other thing I want to mention also that kind of plays to the same thing where you get all these debuts, right, and you get all these dope albums, but you have cats that not too long ago were popping, but they were starting to fade, like Big Daddy Kane, who dropped Prince of Darkness.
I didn't want to be the one to say it. I didn't want the people to be hating on Kane. But hey,
nah, man.
Facts or the facts.
Prince of Darkness was the follow-up to Long Live the King, wasn't it? Right? I think so.
No, actually, it was Taste the Chocolate.
Taste the Chocolate was
first.
And so he did back to back. Taste the Chocolate and then Prince of Darkness. So.
Prince of Darkness.
He was missing layups by this time, fella.
Taste the Chocolate. Like it sounds like you talk about Morris Day in the Time album or something.
You need to see that YouTube video when DMX finally met Rakim, and he was talking about Rakim and Kane, and he was talking about that Prince of Darkness, Taste the Chocolate type. It was trying to be funny, but that shit was hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, but look, also this year, and I know a lot of people don't want to consider this hip hop, but one of my favorite groups, man, PM Dawn dropped that
Oh, yeah,
Utopian
yeah.
Experience.
Yeah.
And look, that Set Adrift and that Paper Dolls. Paper Dolls is like a poem, dude.
Banging. And
That's
look,
an
see,
amazing
to me,
song.
I was young, so I wasn't in the streets. I didn't know what was corny in it. PM Dawn was tight to me as 11, 12 years old that year. So yeah, I wasn't in the streets yet.
I would tell anybody, go back and put Paper Dolls in and listen to the damn lyrics. Like, the shit's like a poem, dog. That shit got so many layers to Paper Doll, man. But PM Dawn was an amazing group, man. You know, I know everybody talking about with KRS and I guess Just Ice out on push his ass off stage, whatever, which we did a show about that as well a few years ago. But man, PM Dawn was really dope, man.
Yeah, I like.
And rest in peace to Prince B too.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, kind of like it's sad because they're like underrated, and it's sad in a lot of ways too. Even with Kane, right? Like Kane was on fire at one point. He was one of two. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? When he was hot, he was one of two when it came to who's the best. And the it was just that the fall was so steep. It was so different from what he had given us that, you know, once he did Taste of Chocolate, we, you know, some music fans think, all right, well, it's just one album. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he experimenting and he gonna come back. And then he did Prince of Darkness, and it's like, yo, dog, like with the Blackula shit, like calm down.
Yeah, it was bad, yo. Doing shit with Barry White, all kind of shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, look.
Rudy
also, MC Hammer sold 3 million records with Too Legit to Quit this year too. Now,
Too Legit to Quit.
Okay. Yep. 91. Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that.
Yeah. Well, now was this Vanilla Ice too?
Vanilla
Ice?
91. Was that 91?
I don't think my Vanilla Ice was 91.
Was that 90? That might have been 1990. That might have been 1990.
Yeah, Vanilla Ice was 91.
Okay.
Yeah. MC Hammer.
Earlier.
We like the clown Hammer, but
yeah, he was successful at what he was doing.
Yep.
But that's one thing I'm glad you brought up, Tone, as far as like Hammer and his success, because when you look at, I think when people look at other years, like later, like especially like 96 on, like rappers were like highly successful, right? Everybody was like platinum or multi-platinum, at least most of them were. Whereas, you know, in 91, not many of these dudes were even, they were lucky if they went gold. You know what I'm saying? Whether the albums were classics or not.
Yeah.
And Hammer showed them cats how to perform live too. Don't get it twisted.
No live show. Yeah.
Hammer kill you on stage, bro. And he sold out for years. Like we can clown him now, but we did a show. We talked about Hammer. At Hammer's apex, he was a true entertainer.
Yeah.
He fed the hood too.
Yeah.
Yep.
He ain't no sucker,
Yeah. We've heard the story. I heard Redman tell a Hammer story. I heard Third Base tell a Hammer story.
But Too Short said it for real. You know, Too Short from Oakland. He said, yeah, Hammer and his fam. He said they was legit, like real shit. Oh yeah, Public Enemy dropped Apocalypse 91 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just had a string of just dope albums.
Yeah.
Bring the Noise, Shut Them Down.
I get to Arizona. Yeah.
Woo! And it got 5 stars. I'm looking at it right. Look, man, real quick. Public Enemy dropped like 3, like almost perfect albums back to back. Well, as far as like the way they were reviewed by professional reviewers, I mean, Public Enemy impact was incredible, man. And Chuck D still don't get the props for being maybe the most powerful voice we've heard in hip hop. I mean, can't trust it, man. You do a video about some slavery shit. By the time I get to Arizona, which we know Arizona, a racist ass state, shut them down, Bring the Noise. Man, look, Public Enemy ain't no joke, bro.
Yeah, and look, that does also speak to, like, you know, you have Kane, who was hot when Public Enemy was hot, but he couldn't pull through. It's only a couple years removed from him being hot, whereas Public Enemy couldn't miss. You know what I'm saying? They were still. And you not talking about an album that's like, oh, that had 1 or 2 tracks that was dope. You talking about an album that was like, nah, this shit was something people had to go pick up.
Yeah.
which is crazy. Real quick too, because me and Nick talked about it, the videos. Now, we've been watching some of these videos that's been playing in the background. I think Public Enemy always had some cool ass videos.
Yeah. That was dope.
You know what I'm saying? Back in the days, I think they were real thoughtful about their videos.
Yeah.
But we watched a couple of Ice-T videos off of the original Gangsta album. And I swear to God, they were all recorded the same goddamn day.
No wardrobe change.
Yeah, it was no wardrobe change, just locations. Just, all right, y'all niggas stand over there for the next song. And stand over there for the next one. But it's funny though, right? Because when you look at the West Coast videos, for the most part, it's real hardcore, real grimy. A lot of times they in black and white and shit. Yeah. And then when you looked at, like, we was watching Heavy D's video, complete opposite, colorful. Everybody got on rain suits and shit. It wasn't raining at all. Yeah. Really almost like, and I know with that, it was kind of like a house record, right? Because that was
Now That We Got Love. Yeah.
I love that video.
It kind of matched the vibe of the house records back then in their videos. But me and Nick was just thinking, like, if we watched the Hammer video, right? Too Legit to Quit.
Too Legit to Quit. Yeah.
It was just an aesthetic to those videos back then, because Hammer and his team got on jackets, but then they got on like biker shorts with these big ass jackets.
Terrible.
They walking through a throne room or some shit. There's a TV with fire on it in the room, and you just like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. Like a picture of the earth was on fire. I just don't know what that had to do with Too Legit to Quit. But it was the 90s.
It had nothing to do with it.
I just had to be there.
Oh, speaking of something else funny, real quick, a big Hollywood mogul named Mark Wahlberg had Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Had that music for the people or some shit like that. And yo, he had that good vibrations and all that. He dancing with the tight jeans on, with his shirt off, and now he's doing Boardwalk Empire on HBO 20 years later. So with Martin Scorsese.
Have you ever seen the I think it was TRL, and this was when Marky Mark was Mark Wahlberg, and he already had a couple of acting shots.
He'll fight you over there.
Yeah. No, but the interview I'm talking about, Eminem was there also. And this was Slim Shady Eminem, and he kept taking jabs at Marky Mark while he was standing there. Like,
they
would ask Eminem a question, and he's like, well, we're standing here like one big funky bunch. And Mark Wahlberg's face was like, yo, I want to put hands on this nigga right now.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yeah. And Eminem just kept going with those lines. Like,
and you can see Eminem. Eminem was just like that. He liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially back then.
That was young Eminem.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably wanted the hip hop smoke with him, right? Like, you're not a real rapper. Because unfortunately, like the white rappers, they don't really like each other, right? They motherfuckers think.
Oh yeah, they be trying to fight for black props.
Yeah. Like, they tend to not like each other for some reason. But I thought that was
speaking of white rappers, this is also the year when the group that battled for the Leaders of the New School tag lost and became the Young Black Teenagers, which we all know none of them were black.
Pass the bottle and twist the cap.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Ain't that the funniest thing when you look at that video in retrospect now? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and Young Black Teenagers. And I think that's the thing, right? Like 91 was like a weird year in hip hop. Like, we got all these classics, all this dope music, stuff that hip hop Twitter would be going crazy for if it dropped today, within the same context. But at the same time, man, it was just so much craziness is going on. Young Black Teenagers, and nobody looked black, except for the one dude who you got to look really quick. Or you had to watch House Party to be like, oh shit, he is black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I forgot about the Young Black Teenagers, man. But we want to know what y'all think. The year 1991, all the albums we talked about, the videos to the singles. to the debuts of some of your favorite artists, like Nas debuting on Main Source album, Ice Cube coming back with one of the greatest diss records of all time, my favorite album of all time, Death Certificate. Scarface, like Tone said, is kind of being the album that launched them. Rappers like Big Daddy Kane, you know what I'm saying? This is kind of like when it was like they were just done, you know what I'm saying, at this point in time. And A Tribe Called Quest, like we started with, emerging as like one of the greatest groups of all time. And they've only had 2 albums at this point and dropped a bona fide classic. Leave your comments in the comment section below. We'd love to know what you think about this year, whether you were around for it, Organized Confusion, Fudge Pudge. Plus, what was the name of the joint? Last Piece of Chicken, something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's it.
In 91, you do shit like that. I'm like, I like this song. Like, you grab me off of shit like that. Especially when he said, even tastes better the next day cold. I was like, oh shit, you right. That shit do taste better the next day cold. But yo, 1991 was probably a year where it was fun to be creative, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of artists were being creative of what they did. And like Nick mentioned, you know, they were also inspired by one another and what each artist put out. So leave your comments in the comment section below. We just love to hear, you know, what some of y'all think about that year and some of the music that dropped. But now we get into the
what's that? Like the Bomb Squad production, they did Son of Berserk was a guy from Long Island that they was down with.
Right.
Wow, yeah.
I forgot about him. Son of Berserk.
Cut.
You pull that tape out. You pulled out earlier, Vegas.
What's that?
Cocaine joint. Because people don't. That's one they need to check out.
On the Humble, back in '91.
Yes.
Wow.
Picked this up. Cocaine debut album too, but his name wasn't Cocaine at the time. It was Who Am I?
Who Am I? Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
The name of the album is Addictive Hip Hop Music.
Yep.
And it was dope too. It was different. You know what I'm saying?
I remember.
It was much different from, you know, the other artists that came out, man. And that's the original tape from back then. Don't ask me why I kept these shits, but they coming in handy now. So, but let's get into a part of the show where obviously we recommended a ton of albums, but we want to recommend something we feel like you should go back and listen to. And my recommendation for this episode is Method Man, Raekwon, and Ghostface album out of the year 2010, Wu Massacre. Now, I recommend this album only because when it was announced that it was coming out, the anticipation was through the roof for everybody. Wu fans, like, damn, those are the 3. If they're gonna do an album together,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like this is gonna be crazy. And I think, at least for me personally, when I heard Criminology 2.0, I was like, that ain't it. Like my hype died down a little bit, mainly because it was like the same beat with new verses.
Yeah,
and the verses weren't better than the original verses. Yeah. So I think for me, some of the hype went down, but I revisited the album, and then I couldn't remember why I didn't really like this album that much, because the majority of it is hot. I think it starts out really strong, and probably towards the very end starts to die down because the first couple of tracks give you a real Wu vibe with the beats. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you kind of expected. The cover gives you a Wu vibe. As soon as you look at the cover,
was crazy.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the album cover got us hyped too.
Crazy.
He was like, shit, that's the cover. But I think when you listen to the tracks that are later, and it's not that many songs on here. I probably should have left it open. But when you when you think about the tracks on here, it's not that many at all. Like I think it's
like 12, maybe 10 or 12.
Yeah, I got it right here. Let me as soon as this shit load. It's about 12 tracks, like you said. It's 12 tracks on here, and I think somewhere like after Gun Showers, right? Like it starts to get spotty, mainly because I think Ghost did some records that he usually does on his project, but to me didn't fit the aesthetic of this album. You know, there's songs that he could throw on his album. You either skip them or you like them. But I think overall it was a strong album. Some of my favorite joints on here, like Smooth Sailing, Gun Showers, Our Dreams featuring Inspector Deck. It's a strong enough album to me for somebody who's a Wu fan, and it's an album that just doesn't get brought up because I think a lot of people were somewhat disappointed when it dropped, or maybe they just forgot. Nick, let me come to you. What did you think about Wu Massacre when it dropped, and what's your recommendation for this month?
It's like you said, it's a solid project. Don't go in expecting, the first wave of Wu. I think that's what yeah, I'm guilty of this myself. You have to get away from always comparing an artist's new material to the prime material. Just go in with fresh ears and give it a listen. It's a solid. It's not 36 Chambers. It's not the Purple Tape, but it's a solid album with my three favorite members of the Wu-Tang.
Yeah, indeed.
And
what's your recommendation?
I had it up here. Oh, right here. Here we go. So you know me, Hometown, Slim Calhoun, The Skinny. This is an album. This came out 2001. I was shocked because I thought Killer Mike dropped first because Killer Mike had all the hype, but Slim Calhoun was the first project that Outkast put out on the Crumani Records through Elektra Records. So a lot of the production was handled by them and Mr. DJ as Earth Tone 3. And I would recommend this for, some people kind of feel like Outkast went too far out after Southern Playalistic. So this is like a more grounded Dungeon Family album. So yeah, this is like more street oriented, kind of like a Cool Breeze or Backbone. So if you like that side of the Dungeon Family, that's the album you want to check out. And I would say like my favorite tracks would be like Red Clay, Time Lock, and Piece of the Pie. Those would be the standout tracks for me. Slim Calhoun, The Skinny, The South Got Something to Say, 2001.
So, Tone, what do you think about The Skinny and Wu Massacre, and what's your recommendation for this episode?
So, Wu Massacre, of course, the expectations is through the roof. It would have had to be a classic to live up to the hype with the three pretty much front men from Wu-Tang as far as MC. It just couldn't live up to the hype. But I thought it was solid. A couple of really good songs on there. I'm not mad at it at the time, and I let the hypeness go there. I could appreciate them doing something together, and I thought it was okay. Pretty good album. Slim joint, it's been probably 15, 16 years since I heard it. You know what I'm saying? I'd have to go back and do the knowledge on the score. I remember it being okay. I remember it being having a nice southern feel to it. You know, so I wasn't mad at it at all, but I can't tell you a favorite song or anything like that off because it's been so long. But yeah, I appreciate them doing that for dude. Whatever happened to him. That's something nigga had to let us know.
And that was a one and done, man. Yeah, cause like it
happens sometimes. Like
yeah.
So my recommendation is to Eric B. and you know what I'm saying? Like it's their final album. It's hard coming out to pay them full out of the leader and let the rhythm hit them. You know what I'm saying? They had some personal issues, some business issues, and that was it for a long time, man. But I still thought Don't Sweat the Technique was dope. I like the title track. The first track on there, What's on Your Mind, was kind of love joint, Meek on the Train and all that. It was a real New York feel. Rock's in his bag, of course. Know the Ledge on the Juice soundtrack. Catchies of War. Yeah, man, I thought it had some good joints on there, man. Like it was a good album and that album run, and it was probably I don't want to say weaker, but it was probably the less critical acclaimed one out of their first four. But I wasn't mad at it. It was a cool album.
Yeah. I actually really like that album. I bought that joint. I really like that. I think I think a lot of people, because right, the sound is a little bit different in a lot of places, right? Like you just wasn't used to hearing, at least at that time, maybe with Rakim doing stuff like, know what's on your mind, maybe rub some dudes the wrong way, and Casualties of War probably did the same thing with the track, but I loved it, man. Now the video was another thing, but we ain't gonna talk about that with the pool parties
Right.
and Rakim and them just ignoring that shit as he spits. But I really like that
No doubt.
album. Yeah, I really like that album for a lot of those reasons. It was some joints on there, and I think it's kind of slept on in a lot of ways. Slim Calhoun, I'm like you, Tone. I have to go back and listen because it's been a while. Like I feel like I see the cover all the time, but I can't remember if I heard it or not. So for me, it's one of those things where Nick gave a recommendation. I'm definitely going to go listen because with streaming services now, you just got access
everything at
to
your fingertips. Yeah,
it's just at your fingertips. Like listening to that damn Bahamadia, but I ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna go to the beast was hot. But again, some dope albums there. You know what I'm saying, for different reasons. The nice variety, if you ask me, as far as recommendations that you can go back and listen to and check out from different times in hip hop to 2001 to Don't Sweat the Technique was what 2092, I think.
92. Yeah, 92. Yeah.
Yeah, 92. And 2010 with Wu Massacre, man. It's
another
nice
thing about that
there.
Wu Massacre, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was like, I don't want to say it was kind of like a contract obligation type of project for Ghostface, because he put that and Apollo Kids out the same year for Def Jam. And I think that's when he was trying to get off of Def Jam. He wasn't too happy with how they was handling his projects.
Right. And that makes sense, right? Because
Method Man, that was also his last project.
Yeah. It's too bad in a lot of ways, right? Because it sounded like it was just a dope idea for them to work together.
Yeah.
But I think if you can kill two birds with one stone, that's even better for the fans. But I think that makes a lot of sense, like I said, with that drop off towards the end of the album where it just starts to feel like filler. You know what I'm saying? Like the last couple of tracks are nowhere near as strong as the first 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did y'all ever do a show about like that? About like labels, how they treat veteran artists? Like, is it messed up or is it just business? Like, hey, they in the business of selling.
It's a great idea, man.
If you ain't selling records, hey, we love you, but hey, what can you do for us?
Or maybe we need to have you come back and join us, and we do an episode about that.
I'm down for it.
And you know what that sounds like? Like the niggas who be on Clubhouse every 5 minutes. That's one of those topics. We go on here all day, every day. But definitely, if you're watching this episode, if you're listening to this episode, go check out those 3 albums. You know what I'm saying? It's a nice variety of hip hop, recommended by us. Trust me, we listen to a lot of music. We have a lot of music. So what we recommend, there's something there for everybody, honestly. But we appreciate you for coming through. You know what I'm saying? Please remember that this podcast is available on YouTube in video form via the B-Roll Network. All you got to do is search YouTube for That Time in Hip Hop and subscribe to the channel, the B-Roll Network. But also it's available in audio form. And again, you can just search your favorite podcasting app because it's on everything. Search for Hip Hop Now podcast, and That Time in Hip Hop will be within the stream of that episode of that podcast stream. But if all that sounds like a lot, there's 2 things you can do, right? The link is in the description of this episode, which is very easy, right? So you can get to all the other episodes. But you could also visit intothedome.com where the homie Tony has the video and the audio available for you right there. So you can pick your poison. But you could also check out a lot of his articles that he has on his page that talk about not just hip hop, definitely some Rakim joint on there. Miles Davis of hip hop, right? That's the name of it. Yeah. So you can check out
Indeed.
those joints, different articles on music in general, some of your favorite artists, really deep dives on not just favorite songs and hits, but these artists and their music and how they create their music and the impact they have on music in general. So visit intothedome.com for all of it. On behalf of the homie Tony of intothedome.com, I am Vegas of Hip Hop Now podcast, and the homie Nick, you know what I'm saying? You can catch him on Twitter. Yeah, what's your handles, man? Put that out there.
Yeah. Twitter is at Balloon, spelled like the De La Soul album, Balloon Mind State. So BUHLOONE. And Instagram is Starsky with the Gum Soul for the Ghostface fans.
No doubt.
Just be talking shit. That's all.
All right. So till next time, y'all, go out and support real hip hop. Peace.
Drop it on the random.